it gives me immense pleasure to invite Mr. Ravi Sundararajan.
There's a lot of things that have been happening in India, and in fact, I'd like to set some brief context on the journey that India has experienced to get where we are today. And I think this is a very important event because we are truly at an inflection point. So in the first time Internet was made available in India was in August of 1995. Some of you may remember, some of you may not know about that. And the first mobile call was also made on VSNL network in the same month of August 1995. And from August 1995 to the end of 1998, VSNL had pretty much a monopoly and was restricted, internet services were restricted only to 4 cities, 4 metros. And end of 98, India just had about 1 million internet users, right? And in 1999, the government decided to change the ISP policy. A lot of private players came. And from 1999 to 2000, we saw a 10x growth. And end of 2000, we had about 10 million internet users. Though services, data services on mobile were introduced in 2000, it didn't, until we introduced 3G services in 2009 and 10, mobile, the internet subscriber base hadn't grown a lot. That's because of the boost 3G provided to kind of internet access. So the last 3 to 4 years, when we had 3G, we have added about 21 million 3G users. And in 18 years, we've had about 18 million PC broadband subscribers. So when people, some say in the land where 1500 years ago, mathematicians such as Aryabhatta, Brahmagupta and Pingala came up with the rules, foundation for the rules of the binary system that drive the code that drives the internet today, we have relatively very few users. In fact, India has about 12% of Indians are connected to the web, compared to 36% in China and about 81% in US. So I would argue that we've just started, mainly about in the last 3 to 4 years. So even if you look at the internet GDP contribution, India has about 1.6% of GDP is attributed to internet, which is less than half of what in US it's about 3.8% of GDP, and in China it's about 2.8%. Yet I think that India has a chance to actually lead again. Lead to be the first truly mobile digital mobile digital society. The reason is this: today, and as of now, I think the latest numbers are about 108 million mobile internet users are there in India, right? And this is of the 162 million internet users. We are the third largest after US and China. China and US, we are the third largest, right? So 108 of 162, that's about 66%. For 66% of the users, it's mobile first, right? Internet is mobile first for 66%. And the more interesting thing is half of these, that is 33%, 54 million, have mobile-only access to the web. And if you look at Facebook, right, they have 84 million users in India, of which 72% access through mobile and 36% are just mobile only. So these are huge numbers. And even for Google, 45% of the searches are through mobile. So I think India is at an inflection point where we have a lot of potential to be a truly mobile digital society. If you look at even the percentage of operator revenues, which is the mobile VAS non-voice revenues, right, there are 3 main components. One is messaging and SMS type services. Other one is mobile content and applications like CRBT. And the third one is data services, right? So typically 15% of the operator's revenues is being for mobile VAS, and it's about $4.5 billion today. But what's changed in the last 2 years? A lot of business model changes that have happened. In the last 2 years, the contribution of data services, which was only 3% in 2011 of the total operator revenues, has gone up to 7.5%. There's been a 250% growth in mobile data revenues. And the contribution of messaging services like SMS and mobile content and applications such as CRBT has come down from 12% to 7.5%. So I think, I believe that all the elements are in place. The cost of access and handsets is going down. The number of the mobile internet services, mobile internet networks are actually going up. So mobile networks are going up. And the appetite for the Indian consumer for digital services is immensely growing. So I think it's an exciting time to be here.
May I invite Right Honorable Mr. Artur Mas, President of the Government of Catalonia.
During the last few years, I can say that the ICT sector has been developing quite well in our country. There has been some transformation in this sense, and I would say that in very positive terms. We are proud to say that this sector has developed very well in the country, and that more and more professionals and more companies with the passing of the time are focusing on the development of the ICT sector in Catalonia. You know that the ICT industry has become one of the main driving forces of social progress. Its development has had an essential influence within global economic growth, and this is also the case of India, as you said before, as well as in the transformation of societies, with a growing impact on the life of individuals and businesses. Everything is easier, everything is faster, and the distances are shorter. Let me give you some examples that you know very well. Software developers in Bangalore can sell their products to small businesses in Barcelona, for instance, at the click of a button. A family in Mumbai can keep in touch with their son or daughter studying at one of world-class business schools in Barcelona, in Catalonia. Or, maybe a most popular example, a football fan in Delhi can stream a full coverage of Messi scoring for Barca against Real Madrid. This is something that happens from time to time. Or Manchester United, for instance. Well, let me say that ICT has a positive impact both at the economic and the social level. It is not only a matter of economics, it is also and basically a matter of the social influence of the ICT sector, and this is what makes ICT so important nowadays.
We talk about these users, and it's good to know who these users are, and are they really, this mobile-only access or the mobile internet access, what's driving this, right? And as we briefly talked about before, a lot of these users do use social media, mobile internet users, right? 45% of Google searches, 72% of Facebook engagement, and some of it, a third of it is just mobile only. And to me, especially if you look at the internet usage in India, right? People view their laptops and PCs, even though it's only 60 million laptops and PCs, they view it as more of a professional or a work device, right? So, and most of the prepaid plans, if you look at even the internet users, 75% of the internet users in terms of smartphones. So they have a propensity to spend. They're also paying money and loading up. So they're doing that. Now, even if you look at the access from the internet, mobile internet, most of it, 81% of it is from Wi-Fi. So which means that most of the stuff is coming when they are actually not on the move. They are in a location where they have a laptop and a mobile, but they actually use the mobile to access it just because for them the propensity to spend and entertain and search and do some stuff is more associated with mobile, which is being a personal device. So that's the kind of context, and that's what these users are doing. So last year, the average traffic from mobile
in India was 9%, right? The page views. And this year, Naukri is 27%. Most of the apps are 18 to 30%. 22? Okay. So it's doubled, right? Average is 18, but Naukri is at the higher end, but there are a lot of apps that are even, in the more than 25%. So that's huge, right? So because now people are actually, it's using the mobile, right? The second thing, which is a very important point that actually Sanjay mentioned, right, is the cost. If you take purchasing power parity, the cost of monthly internet access in India is $61 if you adjust for purchasing power parity. That's huge. I mean, so how can people afford? I mean, I'm surprised there are even 100 million users. That's because it's being subsidized. And the key thing is, even when, we started Akamai, one of the key things, we didn't go and to actually ISPs and say, okay, buy caching and do that. We went to the content providers and said, why don't you pay for your service to be accessed? And the whole business model was turned. The technology wasn't different. It was a change in business model where we said the content providers will subsidize to improve performance of rich media. That's how rich media took off, right? So it's Yahoo and the CNNs and the Microsoft and everybody else who have media-rich websites and images will pay for it, so that a guy in Sri Lanka who's trying to dial in will not have a slow access of that website, right? So it's a combination of partnership between operators, content providers, and others to figure out if I really want this service to be accessed by the consumer, then you'll have to subsidize the cost of access. Otherwise, it'll not happen. So that's a very huge, important point. And the third thing is, we have all these opportunities. We talk about social media, we talk about search, we talk about m-commerce, and a whole host of other things, gaming, right? But I think the most important need is localization and addressing this 450 million internet-enabled feature phones. That's a huge opportunity that no global player will address. So today in India, most of this is just, as Sanjay rightly pointed out, it's WhatsApp and Facebook and Google and others, right? So it's truly not an indigenous Indian application or app that's actually coming and getting. There are some things like Naukri and ClearTrip and Make My Trip and others are trying to get there, but Book My Show. So the key thing is, how do we localize it? Because regional consumption is very important. If you look at the top 20, 50 languages, not a single Indian language shows up in internet access, right? Predominant language here is English, but most of the population, the rural population where the internet penetration is low because of cost of access and lack of localization, that's going to be huge. So if you want to get to 300 million actually vibrant and grow more, we have to have localized services. Though we have the SMS was an impetus, there are also, with SMS, a lot of the localization stuff and there's earning for video and rich media content now, as Nikhil mentioned, right? So I think the next wave could be something like, what he was talking about, 1 rupee videos, or figuring out how to get more engagement. One is that obviously it's just not people who have smartphones. There are only 36 million smartphones, but these 450 million people who have feature phones, who are consuming and spending 25 minutes watching TV shows and stuff like that. Even the commerce stuff, e-commerce, didn't take off until IRCTC said a lot of the reservations have to come. So it has to be a need where everyone uses the train and say, okay, I need to book my ticket, right? So then you start getting on, and then you go online, go to a kiosk or a nearby, cyber cafe to go and do your reservation. So I think it has to be a combination of three things. One is we have to enable access to be much cheaper, is what I took away. So we have to come up with new business models where we have a cross-industry subsidy, be it the combination of operator and the content provider, the enterprise and the business, making internet access much cheaper, just like what was done for SMS. The second thing is we actually need to do a lot of localization and awareness for people to come on. Otherwise, why would they even come on, right? And then the third most important thing is the payment part of it, right? How do we do it? It has to be they all do no prepaid services. Does it have to come from operators?